just stall the shit out of it. So much toxic diesel fumes. Joe, you got freaking
Leave it right there.
smoke coming out of the front.
All right, thanks everybody for joining me tonight. The intention was not to make any videos tonight for YouTube, but rather work on stuff. And I had to delay that. The next steps I had planned for the build here, our Freightliner, because I ran into a couple little roadblocks where I sat on it a few hours thinking, and I made a decision. I got to go back a little bit and kind of fix up some things so I can proceed further. Now, this is something very common, obviously, in any type of model building, kit building, scratch building, doesn't really matter what it is. But it's they're really pretty big roadblocks, and they're very frustrating when you do one of custom builds or kit bashing of just one of a kind things, because the prototype dictates what you do as far as the steps of the build are concerned. Do you follow the instruction sheets? Not really. You use them kind of as a guide, but the prototype, the pictures of what you're actually modeling, are going to dictate what you do here and what are you going to do when you get to some roadblocks or some mistakes. In the past, me and Dave partially called these crash and burn episodes, and this was a crash and burn, only I was not planning on it. So we're just going to film this raw, and I'm going to explain raw. And like I always say, the idea is just to show you guys how my brain is working and processing this. Usually I do it quietly by myself, but I'm doing it out loud and on camera for you guys, and to remind everyone that the guy who's shooting the videos and posting them on YouTube is human just like everybody else. And yeah, we all make mistakes. Today, I discovered two little ones I have done in the last couple of days, and I'll point them out to you right here. I'm going to zoom the camera in. Okay. What I did here, I installed my dump bed. I couldn't wait for glues to dry and chrome to strip on the front grill of the cab portion, so I could finally install that. So thinking I'd be cool, I could kind of figure it out, by looking at the video in my own memory. So I installed it where I thought it was going to look great. I had previously marked off lines where the rear of the cab was going to come up to, so that kind of gives you an idea of your distance. A lot of little reference points I built into the model, and I use throughout the steps that I just never mentioned because it really wasn't necessary. But I use them as my my goalpost, so to speak, where I gotta land this thing. I was wrong. What I did is I installed the cab onto the hinges I had built way too low and a little bit too much forward. So when I finally got the cab figured out, or I thought I had it figured out, that's the second crash and burn I'm going to show you guys real quick right now. This is what I got. Actually, it was worse than that. It was kind of like right there. Like that. Can you guys see that? Yeah, that looks like shit, and that ain't going to work, especially after all the work we did. So, never panic. This is your baby. There is no time clock keeping measuring your time, how long you're taking, when you're going to finish. This is not one of those crazy things you see on cable TV where the restoration project has to be done because the big parade is on Monday. Will they meet their deadline? That type thing. No, man, this is our build. We do it at our leisure as an enjoyment, and when it gets frustrating, we walk away. No matter how long that takes, the idea is to get her down perfect. I had to make a call. Do I leave it like that? What do I do? That was my mistake, because I was going to install the dump bed after I had figured out the cab, because that would allow me to move the dump bed wherever I wanted to, find the perfect location in relationship to an installed cab, not a free floating one like mine, and then drill and start attaching my hinge points for my dump bed. I didn't do that. I just did it kind of guessing by memory off the seat of my pants, and I paid the price. So I took that apart. The hinge system in this instance is a series of tubes and rods. I tend to use always brass this build here, I did not use brass on the front ones, and I'll show you. We'll get to that right now. So just a series of hollow brass tubing, solid brass rod. The thing is, you get it to fit in there nice and tight, but fit nonetheless. Put a little drop of oil in there, and over time it starts acting and takes on a roller bearing effect. But it spans both points that I'm trying to get to operate on a opening cab or dump bed on our models. And it allows me to make the adjustment and keep it straighter, easier, and it allows me to handle the model, bang into it, and they don't get destroyed at the hinge point. I've already beaten up my diamond reel a few times real bad. The hood's still right where it was. What did break off was one of the fenders, but the hood, which is its hinge system, did not budge. And I hit that thing hard enough to break off a fender. That was way before I finished. It's done. That hasn't happened in a long time. Just to give you an idea why I like to build like this, I belong to 2 model railroad clubs in my adult lifetime. I belong to the San Diego Model Railroad Museum, the old scale, the 2-rail section. And holy cow, those guys were all older guys. They were all veterans. And there was no soft touch or picking up of anything, even shaking your hand. Everything was a power grip. So your stuff would get smushed up real good just by people picking it up or adjusting it on the track and stuff. I also belong to the Citrus Empire Model Railroading Club, which was an O-scale club here a few years ago that disbanded. You'll refer to it as the Pomona Club, and they were the ones in Pomona, California. During the state fair, we had our permanent layout under the grandstand, not the bleachers, the grandstand of their stadium. And there's a couple model railroad books with black and white pictures that refer to it as that, as the Pomona Club, O-scale Pomona Club in Pomona, California, with their layout under the grandstands. If you guys ever remember hearing about that or seeing pictures of either one of those 2 clubs, the San Diego Club's still around. I was a member of both. You had to really build your stuff to be handled, because otherwise those guys would just destroy it at both clubs. And there was nothing more sad than watching your fellow member who mushed up your locomotive feel bad and try to apologize to you that he didn't mean it, and you just gotta laugh it off and say, "No, that's cool. I've been meaning to work on it anyways." And I overly build stuff to this day, even stuff around my house. Just forgive me for that defect. So what I did, and I'll zoom in real quick because we're done talking about this dump bed. The hole where I'm gonna have to drill out to install those rods I just showed you is not that one. That's the original one. What was wrong? So I went ahead and plugged that up with styrene. I'm waiting for the styrene to set. So tomorrow I'll come in, I'll drill a hole slightly back of that hole and a little bit up. So it'll be kind of like right there. Just a little bit back and a little bit up, but enough to affect the overall appearance of the dump bed in relationship to the cab. So if you've drilled something out and you made a big mistake and now you realize it and you say, "I've already drilled holes, what am I going to patch those holes up with the appropriate diameter styrene rod or tubing, or cut your own section and sand it down to fit the shape of the hole, and you file it down, sand it down, put it in with some Tamiya cement or similar like product, and you can drill over that the next day. And don't panic. If you forget something like that, you can always go on YouTube, on any one of these fantastic gentlemen's YouTube channels, and ask these guys that put out these beautiful models, "Hey, I messed up my model. Can you give me some advice?" And you'll be surprised at the wonderful answers you're going to get. And I'm just passing along. I was not going to film this. I was just going to fix it and go watch TV. But I said, I'm going to film this because maybe it'll help somebody. Let's go to number 2. Problem number 2. Actually, there's 3 little problems, but okay. I went ahead and installed my hinge system, or parts of the beginnings of it. I said I always use brass. I only found the correct diameter of tubing today that I wanted to use that was perfect for this. Happens to be aluminum, so there you go, aluminum. I went ahead and, you know, your locating pins for your swiveling up and down cab are located in the sides of the grills themselves, and they're tiny little pins, typical AMT. And one was slightly cockeyed, so I was getting crooked results. I was not happy. This was straight. I measured it. I always measure off. I set it up off the wheels, and I put metal rods and bars that I have specifically for measuring, you know, level. And I did all that doodads, and no matter what I did, this was crooked, causing it to always look crooked sitting on the perfectly straight frame and wheel setup. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to cut that out and put it. I said, you know what? I'm not going to cut it out. I'm going to come up with something. Let me show you real quick. Will you guys keep watching that? Let me bring it up on the laptop. Oh, sorry about that. You guys keep watching. Bear with me, good people. Well, that's not going to work. Bear with me, good people. All right, I want to thank once again Miss Flatbed Red. Kind gesture of allowing us to share her video with each other for the build. And this is what I want to cover. This is the front of Landon Durant's consolidated Freightliner, which she films and shows on her YouTube channel, on Miss Flatbed Red's YouTube channel. Also, the owner of this consolidated Freightliner is Landon Durant, and he has his own channel where he does a few videos on this particular I almost said cab forward, cab over from Freightliner, and gets into more detailed shots, explanations. But what I've been seeing, I'm using Landon Durant's Freightliner as my guide for this dump truck build. And what I have been seeing, what's been catching my curiosity, is right there. The hinge system that AMT provides is kind of typical, you know, kit manufacturer. It's kind of like, you know, rudimentary. It works. That's all that matters, and it kind of looks like it should. But it rubbed my eyes the wrong way, because when you look at Landon Durant's or any Freightliner photographs on the internet or videos, the hinge point, you can clearly see that the parts that attach to the framework of the cab that make the cab swivel up and down, they're round. They're right there. They almost take on the look of bushings on a car, on a suspension. See that round piece right there? A round piece right there. So there's a pin or a rod that goes through that. And here's the other part. There's two pieces of metal on each side where it goes through that. So that probably attaches to the frame of the truck. That's where you get your opening and closing motion. But the real pictures kind of cover it, and this round part kind of sticks out forward. So every time I look at a Freightliner now, this round part stands out to me in my eyes, and our AMT setup does not have that, but it's going to have it. Now that I made a couple of boo-boos, I now have a reason to go in there and tear everything up again, go back and add that feature. So, long explanation. I know, I'm like a freaking parrot, you know. Dave's Mr. Paperclip, and I'm a freaking parrot. But anyways, we both shoot these videos for you guys who would love. So, this is what I installed. It's styrene tubing. It's actually tubing. It's hollow, so I could drive a metal rod through there. That would be this one. And that'll go right through there. Not quite yet. I'm waiting for the glue to dry. But what we're going to do, this is how it's going to look in the front. Let me back off on the camera. This is how it's going to look up front. So when the glue sets, so tomorrow I'll come in here and I'll cut the tube. I'll cut all this part of the tube, that center part in black, off. So I only have the tube right there and right here, and over here I'll also cut it off. So you'll have that round simulated protrusion that's on the real ones, on our video especially. These little side tabs over here, we're going to simulate that out of probably sheet brass, real thin sheet brass or photo etch. But to give you an idea what that is, this is crude and this is definitely not to scale. It's just to give you an idea what I'm kind of talking about as far as that point is concerned. These little red round things there are these little white things here, or they're going to be. So right now, for demonstration purposes, I'll demonstrate what I'm trying to mean here. If it hasn't appeared apparent to you, so let's take that little round white piece right there off. Let's pretend we can take it off, and it's represented by this. Okay, nice little brass thing. And what we're gonna do with those two metal pieces on the side, each side there, we are going to, here's our round piece again, once again, kind of like that. Let's pretend that's it. So it'll sit in there, and it'll have that kind of look. See that? See what I'm trying to show? But of course, nothing's cooperating. It'll have that kind of look. It would have to be more narrow, obviously, but see that? That's better. That's what I'm trying to shoot, a miniature now that I have an opportunity to go back in there, because I had to tear everything up again, to build something that kind of simulates that here, and have my working hinge system that kind of heavy duty in the process. So I'm looking forward to that. So a barrel of lemons turned into a wonderfully tasting barrel of lemonade. I'm kind of happy, actually. So I'm going to let the glue dry in several spots here. I'll come back tomorrow and work on this. I don't want to undo what I did this afternoon. One last thing I want to cover with you guys real quick. Real quick, I want to... here's a good example of modeling on YouTube with all of us. The mud flaps and a dangling chain on the real one running in Texas on the video. Well, Tom caught that. Tom Klein, who's a resident expert on all things mechanical, and an amazing knowledge as far as encyclopedia as far as I'm concerned. And there's a couple of my builds, including this one, that probably would have never got off the ground or completed at least correctly without the help of Tom Klein. But Tom told me that we need to attach. Well, Tom, let me speak to you directly, sir. Tom, you told me about attaching the chains for when you have a gravel load. If you could get into detail about that and where the chain should be, and I'm gonna Google for photographs of it in the meantime. I thought that was fascinating. You caught that right away, and yeah, the one running around in Austin, Texas, has chains dangling in the back. How did you know? If whatever you say, it obviously will be in the comments section for anyone to read, but I'll actually talk about it in its own video, so we could kind of see where we need to go with that and share it with everyone else right here on YouTube. If I couldn't share any of this stuff with you guys, by the way, many of you new subscribers, thank you for subscribing to my channel. I'm going to do a video down the road. I'm going to get everybody's names again and thank you guys personally in another episode. But Tom, thank you very much. We all thank you for that. The third little problem I'm noticing here is my axle spacing is too wide, typical AMT. However, this is not an AMT axle setup. This is actually a white metal castings that I got from ST Supply Company up north, and they're gorgeous, especially when you beef them up and build them your way. They're spectacular, and I love them. And it's not the fault of the actual axle. It's the hub where the front wheels sit in that stick out a little bit too far out, and I'll show you what I mean, and I'll show you the fix at the same time. Okay. This is inside right there, inside the wheel, what attaches to the wheel to the axle. That's that piece, that hub, and this is the part that goes into the rim itself. So before I assembled everything, I said, in case I have to bring the wheels in, let me check out this assembly real good, so I know if I have to come back in, what I have to do. So number one, I'll get in there and I'll pry the wheel off from the back, little by little, around and around, just kind of tweak it, pry it to the CA drives. I use CA glue for that, by the way. Once it cracks and I can pop that wheel off, I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to guess about 2 millimeters. I'm not going to guess. I'll do the correct measurements. I'll note it down and I'll share it with you on another video. But let's say, for example, I got to take off 2 millimeters. And we go back in here. We cut it with a saw on each side of the wheels. Or cut it with a Dremel tool because it is white metal. And now you install your wheel and it's automatically going to sit 2 millimeters inward on each end, and that will correct the width of the tires and the wheel sticking out too far. It's not fault of the axle. The axle is perfectly scaled in a not as wide version like from AMT, but it is the hubs and where they connected. I kind of knew that was going to be a problem, so I kind of set it up so I can just go in there real carefully, take them apart, and fix whatever has to be fixing. I'll show you the end product when we're done with that. Nothing fancy there. Pretty much what I showed you on that diagram, and that is it. Tom Klein, you asked me why am I not using Detroit Diesel resin product. Well, sir, believe it or not, I did contact that company up in Canada. I ordered one, and it came in the mail, I guess. It's here. No complaints on my part. The only thing is what they sent me was not what I had ordered. They sent me another Detroit Diesel V12 engine kit, which is fine. I love those. I'm going to use that on another project. In between the shipping and delivering, before I received this item, I did go on eBay and I found some AMT Detroit Diesels, 8 valve, 8 valve 71 or something like that. And I went ahead and de-chromed the pieces that needed de-chroming. And it's actually a good looking little kit, so I'm going to actually use this. I'll put it together. I'll add some weight to it and the transmission also. I'm going to put a whole bunch of little, I won't say a whole bunch. Dave Parsley, he's putting an engine on the kit, the project he's working on right now. And he was installing all his oil lines and stuff. And what I do is I'll install the basics till I finally get diagrams or good photos of what should be on my engine. I'll install the basic, but I'll drill out a whole bunch of little holes that you can't see. Not a whole bunch, but a few strategic locations. So when I figure out what line, that a line should be here or a line should be there according to new data I received, I can always go back, put that line in and attach it to those little holes if there's one nearby that I pre-drilled. Just put a little dab of glue in there. And that usually helps me. Every single one of my models is never really truly finished, especially when it comes to the engines. On gasoline powered stuff, then it's spark plug lines and distributor caps and all that good stuff. But I wouldn't keep building, my friend. Your stuff is coming out beautiful, Dave. And that's just a little thing I'm passing along to you, sir. And I like your idea about getting, I think you said, a shop manual of that particular engine. I like that idea. I've got Tom to help me out all day long. Actually, a lot of guys on here too, but I guess I'm pretty lucky in that respect. But Mr. Paperclip. Yeah. Well, I gave Dave, and if he ever were to have a nickname, it would not be Mr. Paperclip. It's definitely is something like the Machine or the Death Machine, because he just cranks out those models, beautiful models, just boom, 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 like clockwork. Nah, there ain't no Mr. Paperclip there, bud. That's Mr. Machine, man. That's Mr. Precision Machining. There you go. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. Just wanted to cover this stuff here, what I'm gonna do, what I have to fix, the engine deal. Tom, thank you very much, like always, for your help and your advice and sharing your knowledge with me and us. And always, like always, I thank Miss Flatbed Red and Landon Durant and his consolidated Freightliner, and especially our Freightliner dump truck running around out there in Austin, Texas. You guys have a great evening. Take care. That's it for tonight. Bye-bye.